Hey, 8th graders, welcome to my backyard. That's right. In this lesson, you guys are going to be looking at the basics of the solar system. A lot of the things you're going to hear you've heard before, and that's okay because it's a good reminder of these things. After this lesson, we're going to get into more details about the specifics of some of the planets, and we're going to spend a lot of time on the moon, okay? Phases of the moon and different things about the moon that are probably up to this point a bit hard to understand if you've considered them. But let's talk about exploring our solar system real quickly. Take a quick glance at our solar system before we move into the details of it. Well, our solar system, solar means sun, and so the solar system is everything that's around the sun. The center of our solar system is the sun because it is referred to as the solar or the sun. Now the sun is an average sized star, and when you consider that the sun is over 100 times wider than the earth and that the sun is an average sized star, it really gives you some perspective as to the size of that star. Really, really amazing. It's really close to us comparatively when you consider that so many of the planets in our solar system are many times further away from us than the sun is. So comparatively, it's close to us. On the other hand, it's not real close because it's 93 million miles away from us, and that, when we think of miles, that's a very, very long distance. Again, the sun is 100 times wider than the earth. And if you could hollow out the sun and put Earths inside of it, you could fit well over 1 million Earths inside the sun. Very large. What is the sun good for? Well, it gives us light and it gives us heat, and heat is a form of energy, so it also gives us energy. And without it, of course, we would not be able to exist. It's constantly burning, producing that heat, which is in turn producing that energy. Mostly it's made up of hydrogen and helium. Hydrogen and helium. And we're going to get into the details of the gases that make up the sun, what causes flares on the sun's surface and things like that. All right. So let's talk real quickly about the 8 planets in our solar system. The first one is Mercury. And so we're going to start from the nearest to the sun and go outward. Mercury is the nearest to the sun. It's the smallest in our system, and actually you can see it from Earth in the evening with just your eye. It's one of the 3 things that we can see in our solar system other than the sun with the human eye without the aid of a telescope. And you could usually see it closest to the horizon. So in the evening, look out at the horizon. If you see something extremely bright that looks like a real bright star, it's probably Mercury. It's extremely hot and extremely cold. Now it makes sense that it's extremely hot because it's the nearest to the sun, but it's extremely cold on its other side as well. So it's got 2 extremes in terms of temperature. Mercury goes around the sun in 88 days. We go around the sun in an average of 365 point something days. So our year is 365 days long. So on Mercury, 88 days makes up 1 year because a year is a rotation around the sun. Venus is planet number 2. It's called Earth's sister because if you look at the size and the gravity of Venus and Earth are very similar. That is gravitational pull from the sun and from them. But Venus is super hot. It's the hottest in the solar system. But its gaseous atmosphere traps the Earth's heat. It's beautiful to see. It's the second brightest in the sky. Like I said, you could see it along the atmosphere if you look closely on a clear night. So if you happen to see this bright star in the atmosphere, then it's probably more than likely Venus. And then Earth, of course, is the 3rd planet, and it's our planet, and it's often called the Goldilocks planet because it's not too hot, not too cold, just right. If we were any nearer to the sun, we wouldn't be able to exist. If we were further away, we wouldn't be able to exist. It's just right. Goldilocks planet, the Earth, and the most beautiful, I might add. Mars is our fourth planet, and Mars is a really interesting planet. They call it the red planet because it looks red, and iron oxide gives it that reddish color. Mars is cold, rocky. There's water ice on Mars. We determined that and found that in the last decade or so. And scientists hope that we will, in the future, be able to spend more time there on Mars. Maybe discover some more things. And actually, there's been talk, as you've probably heard, about living on Mars, existing on Mars. And Mars, by the way, has two moons. Our next planet is Jupiter. It's the largest planet in the solar system. It is an absolute giant, a gas giant. It's made up fully of gas. It's really big. 11 Earths could fit across it end to end. And it's the third brightest object in the night sky. You don't need a telescope to be able to see Jupiter either. So just like Venus, you can see it with your naked eye. It's got at least 67 moons, if you can imagine that. 2 are about the same size as the planet Mercury. So 2 of the moons for Jupiter are just absolutely massive. And some of those can be seen with a telescope, some of its moons. But there's no landing on Jupiter because it's a gas planet. And then our next planet is Saturn. We all know Saturn from its beautiful rings, but it's also a gas giant, so we'll never be landing on Saturn. It's got these beautiful rings, and the rings are made up, if you've ever wondered, they're made up mostly of ice and also rocks and dust particles. Saturn has 60 moons, and Saturn actually is not very dense. I think that what you're going to see and hear in the video is that if you could take Saturn and find a big enough bathtub to set it in, Saturn would float. So it's not a very dense planet. It's less dense than water itself. The next planet is Uranus. It's a gas giant as well. It's smaller than Saturn and Jupiter, and it has at least 27 moons. It's called the blue planet also because it's got this methane gas that covers it. So they sometimes refer to it as the blue planet. Now the next planet, Neptune, also is very blue in color because it's got methane that makes it look blue as well. There's a few thin rings around Neptune. It's got 14 moons, and it takes 164 Earth years to get around the sun. It's the longest orbit of all of our planets in the solar system. 164 Earth years to get around the sun. So nobody on Earth has ever lived to be 1 year old if they lived on Neptune, right? Because nobody's ever lived to like over 115 or something like that. All right. Pluto is no longer considered a planet. Now, the reason for that is because scientists over a long period of time discover a lot of other rocky things in our solar system that were equal in size to Pluto. So it's no longer considered a planet. Doesn't make any difference, really. Okay, so that's a real quick view of our solar system. In the next few lessons, we're going to be considering more about our solar system, more of the details, and again, we're going to talk a lot about our moon. Okay, so I hope you took some notes on this. Be ready to put to memory some of the basics of the stuff that I just talked about so that on Friday you do well on the quiz. Okay, good luck.